Hi everyone, Lindsay Vaught with Beloved One Studios here, here to bring you a an opportunity to quiet your hearts before the Lord and to move your bodies a little bit in order to stretch and better prepare for the work and the ministry that He has for you. And first, let me just say, He is risen, and today is one of the happiest Easters I remember. I know that my heart is just absolutely overflowing today. I woke up this morning like it was Christmas, and just rejoicing in the truth that that the Lord has come to save me, and He conquered death. And because of that, I can live. And so I'm very excited to share that with you. And I hope that this has been a day of rejoicing and hope for you too, that you have had an opportunity to be strengthened in the Word. Again, with all of us doing church online, we've been binge watching services from all over the world. So we covered everywhere from Hong Kong to Perth, Scotland, to Greenville, to the West Coast. And so we've just been really enjoying our opportunity to be in the Word and to be in the Word a lot more fully today, just because of the access that we have online to all of these sermons from all over the world. So I'm very grateful for those who have shared the Word and for those who have worshiped alongside of us. And we're just going to continue that tonight. We're just going to continue taking the opportunity to declare the Lord's praise and to thank Him for the sacrifice that He made for us. And so we're gonna look at three different passages tonight. And so the first one that we're going to look at is going to be in John 12, the second one in Luke 23, and the third passage is going to be in John chapter 20. And John chapter 20 was a recurring theme in several of the messages that we studied today. And I know that this is probably echoing in each of your hearts, but I want to give a little bit of context for each of these. Let me see if this is more or less helpful. Turn it down so I can read my screen here. So we're going to start in John chapter 12, verse 12. The next day, the large crowd that had come to the feast heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, crying, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel." And Jesus found a donkey, and he sat on it, just as it is written, "Fear not, O daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, they remembered that these things had been written about him and had been done to him. The crowd that had been with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to bear witness. The reason why the crowd went to meet him was that they had heard that he had done this sign. So the Pharisees said one to another, "You see that you are gaining nothing. Look, the world has gone after him." And so they were confused as to why these people were following him. And then we're gonna fast forward a little bit to Luke, and this is where he's hanging on the cross, and he's hanging between two thieves. And as he is being persecuted and crucified, he cries out and says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And they cast lots to divide his garments. And again, this is a reiteration. This is something that was spoken about him in times past, and he's fulfilling it here. And the people stood by watching, but the ruler scoffed at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself, for he is the Son of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, if you are the King of the Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. And he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And now we move on to John chapter 20. And we're going to start in verse 26. 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. And although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood in the midst of them, and said, Peace be with you. And he said to Thomas, Put your finger here, and see my hands, and put your hand, and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Thomas answered him, My Lord and my God. And Jesus said to him, Have you believed because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. The purpose of this book, if you guys read in ESV, there's a chapter separation here. It says, The purpose of this book. Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written so that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. And I just want to encourage you with that tonight, that all of this was written for our edification. All of this was written so that we could know without a shadow of a doubt that our Creator has come and that he has paid the penalty for our sins and that he rose again the third day according to the scriptures so that we could be saved. And I have heard a lot of accusation of mockery of God recently because why hasn't he saved us from the coronavirus? Why isn't he rescuing us from these different things? And the truth is that the Lord chose to suffer as a means of fellowship with us. And his suffering and his death on a cross was to make it possible for us to have life. And so whatever suffering we experience on earth is an opportunity to recognize and acknowledge our dependence on him so that we can come to eternal salvation. And so Christ's purpose, whatever he is accomplishing here on this earth, is accomplishing a far greater weight of glory. It's accomplishing something far greater than we could ever imagine here on earth. And so I just want to encourage you with that tonight, that as he has encouraged us not to fear, not to fear, not to fear, not to fear, after he rose from the dead, he was able to say, Peace be with you. Peace be with you. I'm here. And I'm alive. And my work is finished. And I'm going to prepare a place for you. I'm going to open us in prayer and we'll get started. Dear Lord God, I thank you so much for our time together. I thank you so much for the opportunity to share in your word. I thank you so much for the reminders all throughout the Old Testament that tell us that you're coming and how we're going to recognize you when you do come. And I thank you so much for the benefit of hindsight, where we look back and we can see that you fulfilled every single one of your promises so that we have nothing to fear about our future. I pray, God, that you would give us grace and strength to rest in light of those promises and in light of your goodness and your grace and your strength. And I pray, God, that you would be glorified in the time that we spend together tonight. I pray that you would be glorified in the way that we move our bodies for your honor and glory. And I ask, God, that you would keep us safe as we exercise. And I ask all these things in your name. Amen. All right. I am going to set this aside here. We're going to do things. I'm going to turn this up again. It's always this fine balance of being able to see and not wanting to see too much. So we're going to do a couple of things. Remember that throughout, your guys are a little bit crooked. Remember that throughout April, we have been focusing on our feet. And so tonight is not going to be any different. We're going to continue focusing on our feet. We're going to continue preparing those a little bit more efficiently to carry our weight. And so I want to encourage you guys to make sure that you're focusing on your alignment, the alignment of your toes. Again, we all have some type of dysfunction in our stance, and that's not unusual. It's more common to have dysfunction than not. And so if you have bunions in your toes that keep your toes turned in or turned out, just work on using the outside edge of your foot to align and keep yourself straight. One other thing that we want to make sure that we're practicing is making sure that we are stacking over our heels. And so one way that you can do that is just to find your comfortable stance, then look down, find your alignment, find your center here. I always have to turn my feet in. You guys will see if I'm not focusing on my alignment, you guys will always see that my feet turn out. And so I hope that is something that serves as a visual reminder of you if you see my malfunctions. But if you are focusing on having your alignment centered here, a lot of times in order to take the weight off, we will lean forward like this. And we need to move our pelvis back into a neutral spine. So we need to tuck that a little bit so that we're pressing into the ground, pressing our body away from the floor. Inhale, arms up. And we're rooting properly over our heels. Exhale, down. So make sure that you're finding that alignment, shoulders back and down, and your weight is distributed to your heels and not to the balls of your feet. Again, a lot of us have a tendency to walk on our tippy toes or something like that to make sure that we take the weight off of those heels because they hurt, right? So one of the things that we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to make sure that we're aligning properly, which is going to keep our feet safe, and make sure that we're carrying our weight properly so that the parts of our feet that get really, really sore have some relief. Then the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to work on strengthening those muscles in our feet so that the rest of our body can have its alignment. So again, if we are turning our feet or our let's say you have a problem with rotating inward, or your arches are collapsing, there is going to be a rolling, and I don't know if you can see that, that's kind of a subtle thing. There's going to be a rolling of your foot to the inside. Well, as that collapses, that's going to increase a lot of pain. As you increase the amount of pain, you're going to carry your weight differently there. You're going to end up with knee problems. You're going to end up with hip problems. You're going to end up with back problems. So again, our feet are so critical to the function of the rest of our body. So we're going to root down into all four corners of our feet. Again, I like to lift my toes to make sure that I'm rooting properly. Shoulders back and down, ribs knit together, belly button tucked up into your heart space. Inhale, arms up. And stretch. Press up towards the ceiling. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, arms up. And stretch. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, arms up. And stretch. And exhale, arms down. Roll your neck from side to side. Inhale, arms up again. Interlock your fingers back behind your head, drawing your elbows back into nice gentle pulses. Again, we're not flapping our wings here. We are allowing our elbows to press to the back of the room and letting them naturally fall forward. So these are pulses back. They're not flaps forward. And now we're going to exhale all the way to the right. Drawing that left elbow to the back of the room. Scrunching that right side body. Move those hips to the side. Make some space. Inhale back to center. Elbows back. Exhale left. Inhale back to center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. And there's a few things that you're going to need for this class. I don't know if you guys have a mat that you practice on. If you don't, it might be good to grab a mat or a towel. I have an extra mat here because we're going to do one of the stretches that we've been doing with my furniture movers or with a small towel or whatever. We're going to do that with a mat tonight so that we can stretch both of our feet at the same time. And then, or you could use a towel. Just make sure that it's folded long enough for both of your feet to fit on it. So go ahead and grab those. And I am going to step to the back of the mat. We're going to inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Swan dive forward. Hinging at your hips, hang heavy. Pedal your feet and your knees. Roll your hips back and forth. Inhale halfway. Exhale back down. Inhale halfway. Exhale back down. Inhale halfway. Exhale back down. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale, hands to heart center. And now we're going to step both of our feet onto our mat here. And if you guys remember how we did this the last time when we were using furniture movers, the idea is to make sure that your heel is touching the floor and that you are rooted properly through your heel. Now we're going to do our half step here, which is going to require you to step forward. So your weight is still on your back heel, but your right foot or your left foot is forward. And that right foot is pressing into the mat. So you've got a lift there from the mat, lifting up from the ball of your foot and the arch of your foot. The only thing resting on the floor is your heel. Again, your pelvis is stacked over that heel. Right foot forward. Palms out. Shoulders back and down. Nice deep stretch here. And now you're going to step your left foot back. And you're going to find your alignment, your center there again. So again, the mat comes up underneath your arch and the ball of your foot. Your right foot comes forward. You find your alignment. And then you shift your weight because you're not going to want to. You're going to shift your weight back to your left heel. So shift that weight, shift your pelvis back, giving yourself a neutral spine. Palms forward, heart lifted. And now you're going to step back off. And now we're going to step both feet fully onto the mat except for our heels. Now our heels are properly rooted into the floor and our pelvis is properly aligned over our heels. So we're actively pressing into the floor, actively pressing our body back. Now this is going to be uncomfortable. This is also a challenge for your balance as well. Depending on how big your feet are, this might not be a big issue for you. But if your feet are smaller, this might be more of a challenge. And I want to challenge you guys not to lean forward to take your weight off, that you tuck your pelvis and balance back. Shoulders back and down. You can also move them to heart center. Nice deep stretch here. If you find yourself getting off and leaning forward again, Find your center one more time and move that stretch to your heels again. Step off of that mat. Step your feet back out. And we're going to practice stretching our toes. So again, we have this dysfunction, this issue with not keeping our, sorry, I'm trying to show as much of my toes as I can. We have this dysfunction with not standing properly, but we also don't use our feet properly. And if you think about it, when you're a baby, at 2 weeks old, typically you start wearing shoes. And they might be those cute little soft shoes that you put on baby's feet, and they're adorable. And that's great, but the problem is your feet aren't even formed yet. So what happens is your feet are going to take the shape of that shoe. And if you think about how much time we spend wearing shoes are like mittens, and so they keep our toes together all the time. Well, our toes are critical for our balance, and it's necessary that we have a wide range of motion in our toes for balance and for all kinds of other foot health reasons. And so if we are not exercising those toes, we are going to be more quickly inclined to injury. So if we're rooting down into all four corners of your feet, I want you to start spreading your toes as far out as you can. So spread them as far as you can. So reach that pinky toe towards the back of the room. So you want it to stretch as if it's moving around a furniture leg. So move those pinky toes all the way out to the back of the room. Raise that big toe up as high as you can get it. So you want to raise that big toe, reach that pinky toe all the way out. If this is really hard for you, you might want to stick something in between. Like if you have something for pedicures, they give you those little foam things that go in between your toes. That would be a good way to start stretching your toes. Just kind of walk around with those for a little bit just to give yourself that range of motion. Now you're going to lower your pinky toes, one after the other, going towards your big toe. Root down through that big toe, and now you're going to raise all your other toes. So now you're rooting through the big toe, raising your other toes. And now you're going to reverse that motion. So you're going to start lowering your toes, moving all the way to the outside of your pinky toe. And now you're going to roll those feet back up. Roll back down. I recommend that you do this slowly, because if you do it quickly, you're going to find quickly, and you can even see I've been doing this for a little while, and my knees rotate inward. We're not trying to rotate our knees anywhere. We're rooting down properly, but we're just moving our toes. And just one at a time, just keep those wide open. Give yourself as much stretch as you possibly can. Now, this isn't something we often do. So if this is making your toes sore, there's a reason for that. We spend most of our day in shoes. All right, and just wiggle your feet and your ankles here. Loosen that back out. So again, that's not something that we do very often, but it's something that's absolutely necessary for balance and proper alignment. But because we wear shoes most of the time, we don't get to work those toes very much. So another thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to do this in a chair. Actually, I'm going to do it seated. I'm going to grab a block here. And I'm going to do this in simple seat. You're going to have a seat with your feet out in front of you. You're going to pedal your feet and your knees, and go ahead and cross your left knee or your left ankle over your right knee. And you're going to draw that up and in, and you're going to use your fingers, and you're going to go from the top down over top of your toes. You're going to put your fingers in between. And you're going to try to reach in between all of your toes. Now, of course, you're going to wash your hands. After this, I washed my feet ahead of time because I knew I was going to be doing this. But just make sure that you wash your feet and your hands after. But you reach your fingers in between your toes and give them a nice stretch. Now this does not come naturally, and it's going to feel uncomfortable, especially if you have some type of dysfunction in your foot formation, but it's going to be absolutely necessary for strengthening and stretching those tendons to function properly so that the rest of your body aligns. And so just wiggle those a little bit. It's going to be very hard for you to do, but just wiggle and keep those moving. The other thing that we're going to do, just keep that going for a little while. You can just wiggle those while I'm talking. The other thing that we're going to do, and you can do this while you're doing that, is to give yourself a nice foot massage. We've put a little bit of strain in there, and we want these to be healthy and ready for tomorrow. So make sure that you're taking care of your feet so that your feet can take care of you. And you're going to release that one back out, and you're going to do the same thing on the right side. So you're going to draw your right ankle over your left knee, and you're going to reach down with your right fingers and work those in between your toes, making sure that you're creating space in between each toe and working that down in between. And again, try to wiggle your toes around here. We do not work these tendons properly most of the time. So try to wiggle those toes around, try to wiggle your feet, and then again at the same time, just give yourself a nice foot massage. And we'll do a little bit more of this later on, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of a warm up before we do anything more with our feet. And again, just try to wiggle those toes around, even with your fingers. Just move them around so that they have a little bit more space to function. They are not going to find this, I promise you. They're not going to find this naturally. We have to intentionally take care of our feet. They won't take care of themselves. Now, they will take really wonderful care of us if we properly maintain them, but we need to make sure that they're working properly. And release that back out. And you can go ahead and come back into a standing position. All right, so those feel a little bit better than they did. I want you guys to work with me a little bit. We're going to do a small warm up here. I'm going to step to the back of my mat. Actually, I'm going to step to the front, and we're going to step back later. We're going to inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up again. Exhale, swan dive forward, hinging at your hips. We're going to hang heavy here. We're going to press into the mat. Again, we're going to step our feet and our knees back and forth here. And we're going to move this to the back of our mat. And we're going to press our palms in the mat. And we're going to step our feet back. Normally, I like to walk our hands out. It's a little bit of a safer move, but we're going to find our roots here through our palms, and we're going to step our feet back. So again, you're going to step the balls of your feet onto the mat, and you're going to press yourself back into a downward dog. So shoulders back and down along your spine, rooting down, actively pressing your body away from the mat here. Nice, deep, and pedal your feet and your knees. I'm going to straighten this out here a little bit, but you're going to pedal your feet and your knees while they're in this position. So you're giving yourself a nice deep stretch. You're pressing your hips up towards the ceiling, and you're making a warm space for your knees here. Again, warming up the back of your legs, pedaling your feet and your knees, actively pressing your hips up towards the ceiling. And now you're going to exhale back down onto your hands and knees. And now you're going to stack your feet on top with the tops of your feet on top of that towel or mat. You're going to find your roots. You're going to inhale cow. Exhale cat. Inhale cow. Exhale cat. Inhale cow. Exhale cat. And now you're going to tuck your toes up underneath there, and you're going to come back into a kneeling position with your toes tucked on top of that mat. So you're going to be a little bit higher than you normally are, but I want you to make sure that you're stacking your hips over your heels. So you're making a nice straight line here. Crown high, heart lifted, and you can open your palms up on your knees, or you can rest your palms down on your thighs here. Breathing nice and deep. Nice deep stretch. Come up off. And we're going to set that to the side again. Again, we're going to stretch the tops of our feet so you can lift up back here, so you can lift your knees with your feet flat on the ground. You're going to give yourself a nice deep stretch to the top of your feet. Exhale forward. Inhale back. Nice deep stretch here. Wonderful counter pose for the foot stretches that we've done so far. Exhale back. Inhale back. Nice deep stretch again. And lower down. And now you're going to come into, I'm going to change sideways here. You don't have to. You're going to come into a crescent lunge. So I want you to come into a tall kneel. Step your left foot forward so that your knees are parallel to each other. Train track feet. And you're going to tuck your toes. You're going to press your palms to heart center. And you're going to stretch your back foot back and then flex it forward. Flex back, flex forward, flex back, flex forward, flex back, flex forward. Keep going. Step your feet back together. Now you're going to come into a tall kneel again with your right foot forward, keeping that left foot back and tucked. Hands to heart center, pressing up into a crescent lunge again. And now you're going to flex your left toes back, pressing your heel to the ground, all the way forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Leading with your breath. And step them back together. And come into a tall kneel again. And come into a seated kneeling position. And I think that's all we're going to do with our feet tonight. We're going to give ourselves a little massage later on. But I just want you guys to get the experience of flexing those muscles and stretching them. We're trying to strengthen our feet. There are a couple other things that we can do with the strap, but I'm going to save those for tomorrow. We'll worry about that later. So, come into a seated position on your mat with your legs facing forward, pulling those toes tight towards your face. Pedal your feet and your knees back and forth here. We're going to give them a little bit of a break. We're going to find your roots, rooting down through those sits bones, which means you're hinging forward a little bit. You're going to inhale, arms up, crown high, heart lifted. Reaching up towards the sky. Exhale all the way forward, hinging at your hips. Deeper on every exhale. Inhale back to center. Pedal your feet and your knees again. And I'm going to come into a fully reclined position. And I am going to take my towel and put it up underneath my hips. You can do the same with your mat or whatever it is. As a matter of fact, that might be a better solution, but I'm going to show you just how to do it with a towel. So you're going to tuck that towel up underneath your hips, and you're going to rest here. And windshield wiper your knees a little bit back and forth. And just feel the dimensions of the stretch that gives you. You just spent some time putting some tension into that lower back. Those foot stretches that you did, those were challenging your hips, and they were challenging your lower back a little bit as you strove to find your balance. Again, all of us have some type of malfunction there, so you just want to take the weight off of that and just roll your knees from side to side. Now you can come up off of that towel. Come neutral spine. So again, tucking your pelvis, rolling those knees back and forth. Palms open. Now you're going to extend your right foot all the way out. Exhale, draw your left knee tight to your chest, pulling your toes tight to your face. Now you're going to exhale, drawing that left knee to your right side, twisting at your belly button. You can extend that heel out and away from you. You can point your toes. The idea, though, is to give yourself a nice deep stretch. Shoulders are still pinned to the floor. So the twist really is coming in at your belly button here. Inhale back to center. Exhale that knee tight to your chest. Extend back out. Big inhale. Exhale, draw your right knee tight to your chest. Big exhale. Pulling those toes tight to your face. Just breathe here. And now you're going to draw your right knee to your left side, keeping your shoulders pinned to the floor. Nice and deep here. You can see on this side I can't extend as far out because I've got a table. If that's the case, that's just fine. Just keep your knee bent. Just do your best to give yourself a nice deep twist here. Shoulders pinned to the floor. If we roll over, all we're doing is rolling over. We're not twisting. Nice big inhale. Exhale, right knee tight to your chest again. Exhale all the way. Inhale all the way out. Sorry. Exhale, both knees tight to your chest. Rolling back and forth. Giving yourself a nice deep massage. Nice squeeze. Inhale, rolling back up. And come into simple seat. And now we're going to take care of those feet. So I want you guys to just draw your right foot up and give it a nice deep massage here. And you can just really take care of the balls of our feet, which take a lot of unnecessary weight because we're trying to take the weight off of our heels, because that's where we usually get our first pain when we have some type of dysfunction in our alignment. Our heels and our arches usually take a lot of that pain. So what we do is we shift that weight towards the balls of our feet, which causes a lot of pain there. And then they tense up, and our hamstrings tense up and try to take the weight off as much as possible. And again, this just leads to a string of alignment issues. And so if we're going to take care of our feet, if we're going to strengthen our feet, we need to make them feel good, right? Because if we are not making them feel good, we're not going to want to continue strengthening them, because we're going to end up with that pain and we're going to end up with dysfunction again. And so anytime that you stretch your feet, you want to take good care of them. As a matter of fact, I have one instructor that always tells us that if we're doing a lot of deep work on our fascia, if we're doing a lot of, let's say we're using golf balls or tennis balls on our feet, we're going to want to leave time for those to heal. So if you're a runner, you want to take time off of your running so that your feet can heal during that time. So, and now you're going to move to your left foot, and you're going to do the same thing again, giving nice deep massage to the pads of your feet, your toes, making sure that you run your fingers between your toes. You're moving them around. Again, they get stuck in our shoes and they start to take the shape of our shoes, and that is not helpful. So give yourself a nice heel massage as well, all the way up around, and you can just kind of flap that top of your foot back and forth. Again, the idea here, give yourself a massage in your arches. See how sore those are. But the idea here is to take care of your feet and make them comfortable taking care of you. And so again, they work very hard for us. They carry the weight of our entire bodies. And if yours is anything like mine, it's a little chunkier than it should be. So they're working overtime. And we want to make sure that they're in good condition so that they can help us. Once we have that alignment set up properly, it's going to be a whole lot easier for us to take on deeper and harder exercise so that we can get our bodies in better condition. So again, our feet are an indicator of the health of the rest of our body. So just give yourself a nice deep massage there. And then I want you guys to come into a reclined position with your knees up. And I am going to grab a cloth here. And if you have a cloth, go ahead and lay it over your eyes. If you don't, just close your eyes. Draw your knees up towards the ceiling, neutral spine. Open your palms up towards the ceiling beside you. Fingertips wide. Heart open. Breathing all the way into your lower belly. Resting in the hope that the Lord's given us. And while you guys are resting, I'm going to read our passage one more time. Breathing in all the way into that lower belly, breathing all the way back out. Breathing in, releasing that back out. Again, rejoicing, resting, knowing that the God who sacrificed his son for your salvation is also preparing a place for you. And we can rest. John 12:15, Fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt. And the thief on the cross, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And he said to him, Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. These things are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. So close your eyes and rest in that truth. Breathing, resting, confidently hoping. Dear Lord God, I thank you so much for our time together. I thank you so much for this opportunity and the space to breathe and to exercise and to strengthen ourselves for your service. I ask, God, that you would use this time to glorify yourself in our bodies, and that you would use us mightily for your service. I pray, Lord, for those who are like the thief on the cross and who are like all of those who followed Jesus just because of the signs and wonders that he did, Lord, and missed the point that all of this was done to bring us to eternal salvation. I pray, God, that those who are wondering what the point is, why are we celebrating Easter, I pray, God, that you would use this night to draw them closer to yourself, that you would use this night and the confusion of what they're feeling to help them realize their need for you, and that their worst enemy is not the coronavirus. It is not whatever we face here on earth. Even if we've got someone trying to kill us, Lord, that's not our worst threat. And your Son was sent to take care of our worst threat. And Lord, I just pray, God, that you would give us the confidence to entrust the rest of those things to you. Anything that pulls our heart towards anxiety or trust and dependence on ourselves, I pray, God, that we would entrust that to you, knowing that you have already provided in a way that we could have never accomplished on our own. I thank you, Lord, again for your victory over sin and over death. And I ask, God, that you would bless us with peace and joy and rejoicing tonight. And I ask all these things in your name. Amen. So thank you guys again for joining me. Again, I hope that these have been a blessing to you. If they are, please go to Beloved One Studios and like that page. If you know of somebody who could use these classes, feel free to share them. Again, rejoice in the Lord's victory over sin and over death. And I pray, God, that you guys have a wonderful night, a very happy Easter. And next Saturday morning, we're going to have a retreat. And so that will be a virtual retreat. And I've got the invitation on both Beloved One and my personal page. But it's going to be called Realign. It's free. And it'll be a wonderful time of prayer and fellowship and better preparing our bodies for God's honor and glory. So it'll be a time of rest, drinking our coffee together, sharing our stories, sharing our hope, and encouraging one another, as well as getting some tips and doing some body movements to better prepare us for the rest of our time. So I hope that you'll join us for that. I really think it's going to be a time of deep refreshment and much needed after all of this time of isolation. So have a wonderful night, and thank you again for joining me.